Welcome to the Cherry Picker, the horror movie podcast where we like to kill people, but not really. I'm your host, Zach Cherry, and with me as always is.
That was so nice of us. Eddie of Edward is Truth.
And today we're talking about Final Destination 3, released February 10th, 2006.
Yeah.
So quite a while ago. We are currently we're recording this on May 12th of 2025. And in 4 short days, we are getting the release of Final Destination Bloodlines, the sixth chapter in the franchise. So
Hope
we
it's
figured,
good.
yeah, I mean, I hope everything is good, but it's
Of
not
course.
always the case. But yeah, here we are. We figured this was a great time to delve into this classic, especially since we already covered the first two.
And well, I mean, it's got to be better than, wasn't that Pet Cemetery sequel also Bloodlines, or am I thinking of something else?
Pet Cemetery Bloodlines, I believe that's what it was called.
Yeah, I think
It
so
was a
too.
prequel.
I
We
watched
also
it.
have
I don't remember anything about it. It was
we also have
boring.
Hellraiser Bloodlines, or
Yeah.
maybe it's just Bloodline. I don't
So
know
it's
how
got to be
many.
better than those, right?
I, I kind of like Hellraiser Bloodlines, but
Which one
that's
which
just
number is it in the sequence? Is that the third?
four.
Four?
That's
Okay, I haven't
the
seen that one
yeah.
yet. I've only seen
Yeah.
up to three.
Yeah, there's a wraparound that takes place in space.
Okay. Okay, well, that can go either way. We'll see.
Yeah.
Leprechaun, Jason, why not?
Mhm.
Why not Pinhead?
Yes, the Amethyst is telling us the prequel to Pet Cemetery remake was Bloodlines.
Okay. Oh, that's right.
Uh,
It was a prequel. God, it was boring.
yeah, and
My opinion.
Silent Saturn saying total snooze fest. The
Yeah.
one thing that looked interesting about that to me though is that Pam Grier was in it, but apparently it was just for like a second. And I'm
She
like,
didn't
well,
do anything. Why would you cast Pam Grier and then not use her?
yeah,
Oh, mad.
yeah, I know.
Madness.
Anyway, yeah, so we got the Bloodlines coming out, and it's I don't know a whole lot about it. Like I've been kind of like I haven't even watched a trailer. I'm trying to
Hmm.
avoid as much as possible. But of
Yeah.
course, like it's out there. I know what like the big disaster is and
Oh.
sort of like a vague idea of the premise. And it sounds interesting. And I think that, what I like about it is that there's sort of an innovation
Mm.
moving along because like a lot of these movies in the Final Destination franchise are kind of repetitious in a way. There's some that sort of like, up the ante in terms of like let's try doing something new with like the formula or a different
Yeah.
way of exploring it or just like a twist, like a new thing. And I think that in Final Destination 2, that thing was kind of what they're doing here, but less effective. And here, I mean, in Final Destination 3, and that's because like they're like everyone can, if you're marked for death, everyone can have a premonition, or not even a premonition, but like look for clues, look for like the shadow of like the hooks or
Right.
whatever, and that's going to tell you. And it a lot of Final Destination 2 that we talked about, and we covered this I think 2 months ago,
Mm.
felt like there were some contrivances just to sort of get us through.
Yeah.
Um, but this one seems to have more of like, I guess, a almost like a David Warner in The Omen of just like these photographs with some like telltale sign of like how
Totally.
you're going to die.
Hmm.
Um, so that's the my takeaway from this one.
At least a clue. Like, it's
Yeah.
interesting watching them try to decipher. That's actually kind of like what I think about the least when I think about this movie. What I tend to lean on, and we'll get more into it as we go in, but just is definitely the opening sequence, which I think we do with every one of these movies. It tends, the opener tends to kind of like loom over, like, oh, that's the chapter where that's the disaster, you know?
Yeah.
But this one, the roller coaster really figures in heavily for me. I think about one specific kill after that. And I really think about Mary Elizabeth Winstead in a big way. I think she and Ryan Merriman together, uh, I wouldn't say they carry the movie, but I feel like it would not be the same film if we didn't have them or actors of their caliber doing what they're doing from scene to scene.
Yeah, they definitely were a step up from the characters of two, which I don't even remember their names.
Who cares?
Um, and nothing against the actors who played them.
No,
It's just
I
I
liked
don't
that
rem
actress, but yeah, the things
yeah.
they made her do, it was just it didn't land for me.
Yeah, where it's just like, I feel like they do a much better job of like I know who these kids are.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, I like Mary Elizabeth Winstead. She's at this point she's been in so much in the
Yes.
genre, of course. Black Christmas, the
Mm-hmm.
remake. She was in the Thing prequel. She was in Death Proof. I know I'm like
Mm-hmm.
forgetting more, but
Oh, she's done so much. I
yeah.
mean, like, yeah, I mean, and even stuff adjacent, like that just has a lot of mortality in it, like Fargo and things like that. But and I know she was in the Birds of Prey movie that nobody watched with Margot
Right,
Robbie.
right,
Yeah,
right, 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 right. I do remember that.
she was really funny in it
I
too. I
saw
loved
it.
her in
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Clear your throat. Yeah, I saw it. But
No, I barely like remembered that it was a movie that existed. Like I saw it once in a theater.
yeah, the DCEU has largely been kind of like disposed of at this point, but
Hmm.
that might be a good thing. Anyway,
Yeah.
but Mary Elizabeth Winstead, like, yeah, continues to work, and I'm happy to see it. What was she? She was. I think when last we mentioned her, she was up for something in a remake of something, but I can't remember what it is.
Right. It's sorry about that. The Hand That Rocks the Cradle. She is
Right.
playing the mom and Micah Monroe is playing the Rebecca De Mornay character.
Very nice.
Yes,
Looking
which I think
forward to it.
is great casting. Yeah, I want to see that.
100%. Yeah, that should be fun.
Hmm.
In theory. In theory. Let's
In
fingers crossed
theory,
it
I
is.
mean, well, that's the thing. It's just like you get a good cast, and the source material is already good, but it's like, the thing that I always fear with every remake is that they're going to do the thing that, and I always like cite Carrie for this example
Uh-huh.
of just like taking something that is just so memorable and just finding a way because it's like we have to make it our own. And then what they do is they just like suck all the fun out of it and just make it so boring. And it's like, so just so you can stand on your own 2 feet, you've decided to do the thing, but do it in the most unremarkable, uninspired way possible. And the thing that I always cite is the detention scene
Hmm.
with Betty Buckley in the original and with Nancy Allen and that
Yes.
whole exchange, which was just like I love. This isn't over by a long shot.
Yeah.
Favorite part of the movie. And then you have Judy Greer in the remake, and we love Judy Greer, but it's just like deliver the same lines, but do it like in a very like Judy Greer in Halloween, like the paranoia and the neuroses that woman is like.
The world is a wonderful place with puppy dogs and and true love and cupids and valentines and bullshit like that, mother. Now get out of my house. Get
Yeah.
out of my house. That's another franchise, but yeah.
Apparently, Grant Dempsey saying apparently another connection with Black Christmas. Glenn Morgan wrote both movies and
That's
directed Black Christmas.
right. That's
So he wrote this
right.
one.
Yeah, I saw his name in the credits
Okay.
and I thought like, whoa. And James Wong directed and co-wrote it as well, I believe.
Hmm.
But
Were they not attached to Final Destination 2?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
I honestly cannot hold information, trivia information that I didn't learn 20 years ago. Like if it's been in
Yeah.
the last 20 years that I've learned it, I don't keep it up here. But I will say like regardless of who handled the last thing, I think because I remember with the second one, it felt like there were a lot of ingredients that seemed like a recipe when combined for success. And for a lot of people, it does succeed, and I can respect that. But with me, with this one, for me, I remember seeing it for the first time and feeling like this feels like the true sequel to me. This feels, I don't know, just kind of like in
Yeah.
spirit of like what I hooked into the most with the first movie. It carried into, it was lacking in the second film for me, and then it really carried into this one for me, like a personal touch and the specificity of like grief and the impact it can have when you lose people. All of that was present in this, and I felt like it was missing in two. It just felt like a body count movie in two, and I'm not about that. So
Yeah,
much.
and also, I mean, what I've come to know about you is that you like movies where there are kind of pre-established relationships between the characters, and in two, I mean, that's largely just like all these strangers coming together because
Yeah.
like all of her friends are like the first ones that are killed off,
Yeah.
and still in like the highway crash, and this like at least they're all either friends, lovers, or they go to the same
Yeah.
school, or graduating in the same class.
Yeah.
So
So there's
yeah,
some kind of context for something prior
mhm.
to the event.
It
Yeah.
makes sense. And I mean normally like I don't that's not a thing that bothers me. I love movies where just like, uh complete strangers are coming together. But in a
Hmm.
in a Final Destination movie, I feel that that is a case to be made that yes, it's better if, we do have those pre-established relationships. So
Yeah.
I agreed with you for once.
First time in how many
Yeah.
years?
Oh,
Yay!
it's not been that long.
I know.
All right. So if you are new to watching slash listening to the Cherry Picker, you may have noticed that we are now recording these live on Patreon. So we've got, for anyone watching, the live stream chat feed in the middle here. If you would like to be a part of our live stream recordings, you can head over to my Patreon account at www.patreon.com/ZackCherry, ZackCherry. And if you are supporting at the Freddy Krueger tier, which is $5 a month, you will have access to join these live streams, chat about them. And then on top of that, you will also be able to nominate a movie that you would like for us to cover as a cherry picker episode at the end of each month. So, this is the second episode that we are officially recording live. So, last week we got all the nominations in.
Hmm.
So I just wanted to there's 20 of them, so
Nice.
quite a bit. But if you are supporting on at any level on my Patreon, you'll get to vote on this. So right now we have The Spiral Staircase, 1946, The Bad Seed, 1956, Rosemary's Baby, 1968, Alice, Sweet Alice,
Mm,
1976, The Changeling,
mm.
1980, Fright Night, 1985, The Peanut Butter Solution, 1985. I've never heard of that one
Oh
before.
my God. I saw it
Yeah.
in a theater, like an old, it used to be called the Silent Movie Theater out here on Fairfax in Los Angeles. And oh my God, it's a trip. It's Canadian too. You'd love it.
Yeah.
So fucked up.
We got Reanimator, 1985, Death
Oh,
Becomes Her,
oh.
1992, Copycat, 1995, Cube,
Mm,
Cube, 1997, Requiem for a Dream, 2000. Not really horror, but
not
it's in
really.
there. Frailty, 2001,
Oh.
Tamara, 2005,
Mm,
Rogue, 2007, The
mm,
Perfect Host, 2010, The
mm,
Invitation, 2015,
mm.
Train to Busan, 2016, Strange Darling, 2024,
Ooh.
and Companion 2025. So thank you to, the Patreon supporters who are here and nominating those movies and voting on them. And if you want to get in on that too, that's what we are doing at the start of every month, and you can still vote on it. So head over to Patreon and subscribe. And, aside from getting to be here and interacting with us while we record these episodes, you will also get to have direct influence on what episode we will be recording for the last episode of each month.
You could hold our fate in your hands for one time a month. I lost it, but
Hmm.
the hand
Yeah.
gesture just took me right out of it. I was like, "Oh
Yeah.
no, I haven't acted in so long. I haven't prepared
Oh
properly." Anyway,
no,
go on,
no.
go on.
Also, I would like to thank some of my high-ranking Patreon supporters. So to the Michael Myers tier, thank you to Kyle Beard, Maxime Rivest, Ali Hamouche, Shane Allingham, Tim McKay, Stephanie Starbright, Horror Slet 95, Traj 125, Bruce the Genetic, Jack Hammer Rando, Gary Blasick, Michael Boswell, and then the Ghost Faces, Eric Champney, Sam Levy, Daniel Saturn, Baby Ghoul, Garrison Nichols, and Craig Lynn. A lot of those folks are here with us tonight as we record as well. So
Yeah.
thank you very much to all y'all.
Woohoo!
Edward, do you have a premise
Yeah,
for
I
Final
do.
Destination 3?
It's really brief, so this won't take long. What should I just standard voice?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. When a control freak named Wendy and a small group of teens escape a fatal roller coaster disaster, a malicious, lethal fate looms over them all until every survivor reaches their ultimate and final destination. 3. Huh?
Very
There's no
good.
way to make 3 work, you know?
Three.
Yeah, here you go.
Thrice.
Thrice times.
Thrice.
Yes.
Cubed.
Cubed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is. I was
They could
gonna
have
say.
like Alien cubed.
Yeah, but why is it 3 times and it's cubed? Because cubes wouldn't that be 6
Well, because it's
sides?
like, well, no, because you're taking like the length and width and then height.
Oh, that's right. Length, width, and height, or depth.
Yeah.
One of them. Something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was in algebra. That sounds more like geometry. I didn't do well with geometry. Logarithms and that's what it was, right? Logarithms and angles and what was? Oh God,
Yeah.
I blocked it all out. It's horrible,
Yeah.
dude. Proofs were awful. They were
Yeah.
the bane of my existence.
Well, when we get to Final Destination 4, Amethyst is saying that you could do like who is the Final Destination for?
Hey, but isn't there a 3D at the end of that too?
Actually, I think it's just called the Final
The Final
Destination.
Destination, yeah.
That's
But
why I
that's
call it
cute.
Final Destination the.
Yeah.
Like if you're writing it out alphabetically, all your movies, and you just like Final Destination the,
Yeah, that's
comma the.
fun.
Yeah.
Comma
Anyway,
V.
where can people watch Final Destination 3 right now?
If you have an active Max subscription, it's streaming right off that. You can just stream it like I did off of that, or go to your favorite rental platform and pay for it individually, usually around like $3 to $4.
Hmm.
Also, there is currently no 4K release that I know of that I could find, or that is even
Yeah.
kind of like being alluded to. They might be waiting for a little bit more down the line to see how Bloodlines do, and then maybe they can release
Yeah.
like a box or something if they
Yeah.
do more sequels. But you can get it on Blu-ray in a 2006, oh no, sorry, 2011 release. I was looking at the release of the movie. A
Yeah.
2011 release that doesn't look like it's chock full of features, so it's kind of due. But
If it's this one, there are
yeah.
no features on it. I put this in and it like a menu pops
Wow.
up and there's no options on the menu. It just says your movie will start soon.
Oh man. And also
So
there's
yeah,
numerous bundles and like combos and
on
collections
DVDs,
that have like
yeah,
the first 4 and stuff like that. So yeah, you can
yeah.
find it. You can find this movie for sure.
It's funny because like I have like this hodgepodge of just like like I have all of the movies of like 1 to 5,
Oh,
and the
uh-huh.
first like the I have the first one on DVD. I think I showed it in that recording. It was like the snap case, and it has the iridescent
Oh yeah.
cover. And then I have 2 and 3 on Blu-ray, but then 4 and 5 I think are DVD
Mm.
as well. Like I just there was no rhyme or reason. I just like bought them. But the fourth one has one of those lenticular covers because it's
Oh
supposed to be
yeah.
3D. So
Right.
yeah, I hate
Ooh,
those
look,
actually.
depth of field.
Yeah,
So impressive. It's
yeah,
cute when I just reminds me of like little really hardbound like storybooks I'd have where they have a lenticular cover. You could scratch
yeah,
it and it would make noise. I'm scratching my notebook right now. It's not making any
yeah.
noise, but
I see you
it'd be
also
like
have like
oh
a,
yeah,
a
I've
ghost
got
face sticker on there.
yeah. This is from Clark Makes Art
Oh,
It's
nice.
the horror hunks thing. This was like a bonus when I got the calendar.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, can you
Okay.
see it?
No,
Yeah.
I do. I
See the
think
spread
I,
eagle?
yes, I have that too. Because I do have that calendar as well that I bought. And Clark, also, just a side note, did some artwork for my movie that I made with Eric Champney,
Yes!
Macabre. So yeah, if you go
Yes!
on my Instagram or the Macabre the movie Instagram account, you'll see those. So yeah.
Spelled macabre.
Yes, the Macabre.
There you go.
Interesting. Yeah, yeah.
Macabre.
Macabre. Macabre.
Yes. So,
Yeah.
what was the first memory you have of seeing this movie?
So, okay. I didn't like the last Final Destination movie I've seen in the theater, and I don't, I might have mentioned this in the last Final Destination podcast,
Uh-huh.
was the second one. So I didn't see any of the
Oh my
sequels
God.
after the fact until like they were on physical media.
Okay.
So I don't know when I saw this one. It probably would have been later on in like when the fifth one came out. I would
Okay.
assume like I might have been like revved up. I'm like, oh, there's a new one coming out. Okay, I'm gonna catch up and see all these right now. Because I didn't like two very much when I saw it in the theater, and I think that might have like turned me off of going to see any
Yeah.
of the movies after that. So my memory of it is just like seeing them all kind of like together in a probably like in one day.
Yeah, it
Mm.
was, I think I've alluded to either in the first or the second that this is really like my sister's franchise for a long time. And she was the one who was going to the theaters and seeing them. And I remember the first one, I just remember working in a video store and seeing, speaking of like lenticular, it was a weird, like almost not even lenticular, but it was like a weird kind of prismic rainbow DVD cover. Like if you like it looked, I don't know, the silver wasn't quite silver. It was like, ooh, it could be red, it can be blue. But and there was that was like a trend among the DVDs in the early 2000s, the little teen horror flicks. But because they had a like a reverse version of it for that movie with Eliza Dushku that
Oh, Soul Survivors?
that one, yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Um, like it was almost like the reverse, like the negative of that, because Soul Survivors, I think, was like a silver with like blue all wave writing all over it, but
Yeah.
then like this was like blue with like silver. Anyway, and then the second one, and so I saw that, I finally rented that one at some point or watched my sister's copy, and then I watched the second one with her and thought, ugh. But then I saw that one day this was at Blockbuster on the shelves, and she was like, "Oh, I want to see this one." I can't remember if she'd seen it in the theaters or not,
Yeah.
but she wanted to watch it with me, and I said, "Okay, sure." And oh my God, did I get into it? I think as soon as it was over, I actually started it again and just had it on while I was like cleaning the house
Yeah.
and just doing my chores, and I'd kind of dip in. But I really did. It did hold my interest. It wasn't like I'll just have it on. Like oh God, I missed that. Like renting something for the weekend, you only have it for like one or two nights. And sometimes you get that movie that you just have to keep watching until you return it. And
It's
that was
yeah, it's
just one
kind
of
of an
those.
incentive to just kind of watch it again and again. Like just get your viewings worth out of it.
Yeah, if you
So
rented the right movie, yeah.
so okay, I just cards on the table because we do this for
Yeah.
franchises. So ranking of like the ones that we've covered so far, what would you say?
Obviously two at the bottom.
Right.
And working my way up. Then the first one right above that. I think for me, this third one actually surpasses the original because we'll get into it. But first one, we did get into that about how it kind of gets derailed for me in the transition from the second act to the third, and then doesn't ever really recover until like the epilogue. I feel like that's the strongest part of the back half of that movie. Whereas with this one, it doesn't derail. I think it just kind of lulls a little bit in the transition from Act Two to Act Three, but not to the point where I check out. I just kind of sit there feeling like this isn't as dynamic as what preceded, but I'm still on board. Like I still interested enough to like
Yeah.
see what happens. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that's very interesting. You actually, inspired me to change my mind.
Really?
Yeah, because okay, so two, yeah, I would agree that that's currently at the bottom of the first three for me. And but I will say with the caveat that I think that the opening disaster of two is probably like one of the best of the
It's
franchise
really
for me.
good. Yes.
Yeah, like that's kind of the thing that makes that one stand out. And then I would say one. and then three. And it was reversed before. And the reason for that was that, as we kind of go through three, I find that like with this franchise, it's just like a lot of the same beats are hit again and again. And it's just sort of like watching these characters go through these scenarios and it's almost like futile to just sort of like warn these people and they're like skeptical. Oh, I don't believe that that's
Right,
happening. Yada
right.
yada. And it gets kind of tedious and it's like, why do we need this? But the thing that I really love the most about these movies are sort of like the Rube Goldberg effect of just like the way that these set pieces play out.
Yeah.
And I think that like at the end of the day, that is the my favorite part of the franchise. Like the characters and
Mm.
sort of like the journey and the discovery of that is kind of secondary to me because it's the same thing over and over again. And you did remind me that in the first movie, even though I feel like there's a lot more depth to it and maybe like more of a question like an existential question about life and death
Mm.
and fate and just like the control we have over it. There is a lull in that first movie that I find like towards the end where it does get kind of boring for me, like especially when he's like holed up in a cabin and and
100%.
and even like and I don't know if it like lasts very long, but it does like slow the pace to like a screeching halt. And
Yeah.
even the scene where the like with the teacher and like that whole thing, it just feels like it goes on forever and ever. And I do like how there's more involvement with like the FBI and how they're, you know, suspicious of him, but it's just like they're an element here where obviously in this movie it's like there's police, but it's like such an afterthought. Like we just see them coming out of the station, like they didn't believe me, and
Right.
or like I didn't tell them anything, like I told them everything.
I
So
yeah, I didn't even think about that. It goes kind of in the hands of
yeah,
the teens largely. Like we don't really
yeah.
we allude to parents, but we never meet them. I really
But
do
yeah,
like
but
that.
they're there and
Right.
like we see them, but they're not like full-fledged characters. So there are elements that I, like about this movie, and there's
Hmm.
elements that I like about the first movie. But I think in terms of like what I gravitate towards in this franchise, I would tend to agree with you. I would say three above because there is a lot more excitement to be had in just sort of like the way that the deaths are mapped out.
Yeah.
Having said that, though, I
Hmm.
do think that, and it's been a minute since I watched the first movie, but I was kind of disappointed by the roller coaster of the beginning. Not the roller coaster itself, but just sort of like the kills within it, because I feel like most of them were just sort of not even on screen. Like you would just see people fall, and then you would see a shot
Okay.
later, and there's like bodies at the bottom of the ride on the ground. But it just felt like, if you go back to the first movie,
Sure,
that
sure.
whole like the way that they designed that whole scene of just like the people on the airplane and getting sucked out, it just like was a lot more visceral. It was a lot more emotionally charged. With this, it just felt kind of hokey. And it's fun. Like I love the idea of roller coasters because roller coasters are kind of not like a huge fear, but there's an adrenaline aspect to it. But I wish that there had been a little bit more of an oomph to it.
Interesting, because one of the
Yeah.
things that I responded to the most positively about the roller coaster in this particular screening, that again, it was like reminding myself, oh wow, yeah, I thought it was really well done. I do agree with you. I think it's fair to say, like, yeah, some of the deaths are kind of more alluded to rather than like, on full display. But what I appreciated that was just like the effective use of the camera in the lead up to it. Like, I genuinely felt that, and it wasn't like in a kind of, as much as I love it, a kind of awkward Friday the 13th 3D, like, okay, let's put this in the foreground awkwardly and use take advantage of the 3D. But I could understand how I'm already feeling immersed in the experience of the characters as they're chuck 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 chuck, like going up and everything.
Mhm.
And even as they're riding the roller coaster, there's something about the use of the camera that's disorienting me, and that's just kind of like making me feel the what's the word I'm looking for? I guess the lack of control. It's a theme, with
Yeah.
our leading lady here with Wendy. But there's something about it that I really, really appreciated, and I thought, like, God, if I were to see this on a big screen with 3D glasses on, I wonder how much more I just kind of feel like, oh God, I'm going to be sick, in a good way. But
Mhm.
because everything about that, and then of course like the shoulder restraints giving, and we kept referring back to, like the way, it's Kevin's that goes up, and Wendy like puts her arm over him and everything, and immediately I don't know. There's something about the juxtaposition of their kind of like not even animosity, but just their lack of gel that goes on between the two of
Mhm.
them. Like they're not fast friends. They're not even really compatible. Yet they're in a dire circumstance where, of course, she's going to put her arm to try because she doesn't want to watch him die. She doesn't want him to die,
Mhm.
and try to help him and even try to encourage him when they get stuck like underneath and everything. Like there was
Yeah.
something about, I guess, the personal layer of all of that that really appealed to me. So I didn't really mind missing the deaths because I knew they were going to come later,
Yeah.
if that
No,
makes
that's
sense.
that's fair. I get that. I still feel like, we could have got a little bit more. The one part that like was really silly to me was when he kind of the one guy is like hanging on and he loses his grip and goes flying back and he I'm just gonna call him Deckard, the Ryan Merriman character.
Yes, Kevin is his name in this
Kevin,
movie, but
Kevin, okay.
let's call him Deckard for the rest of the
For
pod.
for from Halloween Resurrection. And I think that he would appreciate that too.
Yeah, totally.
When he, because the guy goes flying and he's like, "Oh, let me just like push up my shoulder restraints so I can catch this guy,"
Mm.
which just felt kind of ridiculous because it's like, why didn't he go flying in that moment? And also like, just protect yourself at this point. That was just kind of silly, but yeah, there's a lot of things within that scene that feel it's like those contrivances again that it's like the movie is I can see the movie happening
Hmm.
rather than like an actual like organic thing and that's like okay, let's just raise the restraints on the back half and them just saying like just the back half, not the front half, to seal their fate. The two Ashleys, like, because there's this fight going on and their like reasoning is like, oh, this is so high school, we're gonna leave, and it's like, what? No, there's no reason that they would have gotten up and left. Like that felt like such a bullshit reason for them to be like, yeah, let's just go.
Oh, see, at that point, I don't know. Maybe I'm just letting them. You're right. The movie's
Yeah,
got a movie, and so I don't know.
yeah,
I'm still like, on the
yeah,
right at that point. I'm just kind of like, oh yeah, because you're gonna die later in a really really elaborate
yeah.
scene. But I think also was it, are there two Ashleys? Because I thought one of them was Ashlyn. Is it Ashley and Ashlyn? I
Oh
thought
my
so.
gosh, I don't know.
I looked
Someone
on
in the chat,
IMDb.
yeah, let
I
us
looked on
know.
IMDb, and I could have sworn that the one with the dark hair is Ashlyn, and the blonde is Ashley. Let me
I
double.
think it would be
I
funny
can
if
double
like
check.
both their names were Ashley, but it was spelled different. Like one was like Ashley and one was Ashleigh.
I just thought that
It's like,
too.
Ashley.
She is Ashlyn. There's an N
Yeah.
at the end, but it could be pronounced Ashleen. I don't know.
Yeah. And Amethyst Frost confirmed
Thank you,
Ashley and
Amethyst.
Ashlyn.
Wonderful.
Amethyst, you also said something and I had to scroll back down to the bottom
Yeah.
because I wanted the chat to keep going. But apparently I guess there's a newspaper confirmation that the survivors of Final Destination 2 died in a wood chipper. Do you know anything about that?
Oh, I didn't. I wasn't paying close enough attention, but I don't have Amethyst's eye, so I
Yeah.
believe it. That's
Yeah.
hilarious. That makes me
Is
happy.
is that a thing? Can we elaborate on that a little bit more, please? Um, because I missed it. I don't want to like scroll up, but yeah, it's because I think at this point, I mean, you can look at the end of this movie and we don't see them die. It's kind of like, implied
Mm, yeah.
that it is, but it just feels so mean-spirited that the powers that be gave her this vision when it was already too late.
I loved that because
Yeah.
I remember watching it and just kind of thinking like, oh, okay, so this is their comeuppance. And the fact to go jump to the end, I love the fact that it
Mhm.
was just kind of like the next disaster. And also, I mean, kind of ingenious to top to begin with. Love Roller Coaster or and then move into Love Train.
Yeah.
They're on a roller coaster in the beginning, now they're on a train.
There,
Love is death.
yeah, whoever chose the soundtrack for this movie like really, did a good job.
Oh dear God, yes.
Yeah.
I another
Oh, just
thing,
just
yeah,
just just
yeah,
to comment on that. So,
sure.
the wood chipper headline was in the Choose Your Fate DVD, and it generally is considered to be non-canon.
Oh my God, I remember the Choose Your Fate DVD. Did you ever watch that?
No.
Oh my God, it was so cool because you could like it was like a choose your own adventure but for DVD where you could watch the theatrical release of the movie, but then you could also watch one where you make a different choice and it takes you into an alternate cut of the movie. And I watched it as that was another reason why I watched it multiple times because I wanted
Hmm.
to see as many as possible. And I think actually before I returned that DVD, I I had taken every adventure you can take
Mm,
because I think it's pretty much like preliminarily before every death. And maybe I don't remember if the most interesting choices are the ones that made it into the theatrical release or the ones that like nobody survived or whatever. But maybe I don't know. God, I now I need to get a hold of that on eBay, that old DVD,
Is that
and just
is
sail
that for
through again.
for the second movie or for the third one?
For the third.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, interesting.
I had forgotten. I had
Why is
forgotten
it
about
not on
that.
here?
I had forgotten all about
Yeah.
that aspect of it. But I guess maybe it's just too hard to like alter the technology to include those options. I don't know. Maybe it
Yeah.
was yeah. But thank you for reminding me, Amethyst. That was a trip. I completely forgot about that. Also another thing that I really appreciated in the way, because we're talking about like the strength of the movie and the things that made us hook in, is that it's not like how do I put this? The way like the first movie very, very clearly kind of like bestowed these clear labels on like each one of the characters and like what we're supposed to expect from them and kind of like how we're supposed to feel about them and everything like that, yet
Mhm.
still kind of allowed them to be entertaining. And I don't know if surprise us was in the formula in the first movie, but at least like we knew who they were and then we got to watch them interact and that was cool. What I like about this one is I feel like we get equally clear introductions of all of the characters, even contextually, like how they relate to each other and everything like that. Like you know how they interact in the halls of the school. But I also, one thing that I really appreciate that offers a sliver of dimension that I don't think was present in the movies prior is contradictions that work for me. Like I love the fact that I get a real good feeling when I'm introduced to Wendy in the opening sequence. And obviously, she's the one who has the vision. That's largely supposed to be the person we're supposed to empathize with. Yet, after everybody's demise on the roller coaster, she's really closed off. She blames herself. It doesn't make turn me off to her character, but like, she says something cruel to Deckard,
Mhm.
and to the point where it's just like, well, I didn't like him. Like, I mean, first thing he does is he's being really obnoxious. He takes a photo underneath a girl's skirt and everything like that. And I'm just kind of like, ew, I don't like this guy. Yeah, your friend, what was her friend's name? I don't even remember. Ash, no, not Ash. What was her name? What was her friend's name?
I have
Shit.
no idea.
Anyway, her friend.
Yeah, yeah.
I never wrote down her name. She's that forgettable. I don't think they ever say it, but she has one, obviously.
It's on the memorial board
Oh, it's on the
too.
Mora. Okay, that one.
Yeah.
So she says she's going to break up with Deckard because, and we're all sitting there kind of like, well, yeah. I mean, he's obnoxious and crosses boundaries. Yet then we see him, even though he kind of, reluctantly,
Mhm.
taking care of Wendy as they get onto the roller coaster and everything like that. But then, like, even extends it even further and starts really just kind of like looking for some support and even offering up, like, I need some support too. Like, the best thing we can do, we both lost people, we can be there for each other. And really kind of like, I don't know, showing like a lot of growth and maturity even in
Yeah.
this short. So I don't know, it makes it for nuance might be too big a word, but at least for some interesting turns for these characters to
Yeah.
do something you wouldn't expect of them later. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
No, totally. Carrie is her name.
Thank you.
Yeah. Um the thing that I noticed was because she did say that about him. And then there's the scene later on towards the end. And they're looking through the pictures, and then her picture pops up and he's sitting there, and it's just
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, that's we're gonna be always having to deal with that for the
Oh,
rest of
so
our
good.
lives. And then he
Yeah.
says to Wendy, that he was going to propose to her.
Yeah.
And like I guess in the same timeline that she was going to break up with him. And Wendy just like she knows, but
Yeah.
she doesn't say anything. She just
No.
lets him have that. And I think that that's definitely like a nuance that dimensionalizes her as a character and
Yeah.
probably why like they are so good. And I like that there's they are this like misfit pair kind
Yeah.
of kind of brought together. I did want to ask you, so like what was the whole coin flip thing? Because I was just did everyone want to sit at the front except for Wendy? Is that the thing? And it was sort of like flipping to see who had to sit in the back with her.
Again, movie's got a movie, and I feel like what the movie's trying to introduce is that sitting in the front is kind of like the. I mean, for some people, it is the most coveted thing because you
Yeah.
have like, I guess the you can't watch a bunch of people ahead of you going through what you're about to go through when you're sitting in the front. You're just kind of going, ah, but you're still watching a track, so it's not like there's a lot of surprise involved. But yeah, I guess
Yeah.
she just couldn't take that. I guess she needed like a little bit of a delay. I prefer to sit at the back because for some reason I feel like I'm going faster. Maybe it's because I'm being dragged. But
Yeah. So,
yeah,
I mean,
I
do
don't know.
you like are you kind of like a roller coaster
I
with the would be
am.
connoisseur
Yeah, I mean, as I'm
aficionado? Well,
getting,
connoisseur is that like a collector?
like I sit there and go, ah, perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
The spiral and the corkscrew and the
Yeah.
it was Davoon. But no,
Yeah.
I do enjoy roller coasters kind of less and less as I'm getting older though, because the impact that
Yeah.
they have on me lasts a little bit more. I find I get dizzy a lot more easily these days. But when I was
Yeah.
the age of these characters, fuck yeah, like I was game.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I used to live in Toronto, so Canada's
Mm.
Wonderland is just like pretty close by. And I would always go to like, we summers and like weekends around the summer.
Yeah.
And I loved like all that they had like a Top Gun ride. And that was one where you're like kind of like hanging. Like it's just like
Oh.
the seats are like the rails on top of you. And I think it was supposed to be like based on the movie. And I mean, I haven't checked the park in a while or just like online to see if like they've made new rides, but like I was there in I think 2012 and they had two newish ones. One was like called the Leviathan,
Yeah.
which never went upside down at any point, but it was like
Yeah.
this huge one, like it was like a huge drop. At least I don't think it might have like corkscrewed. I can't remember, but there's like one called the Behemoth. But then I went more recently. I think this was 2019, and there was this new one called Yukon Gold.
Oh, I've heard of
Maybe.
that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
like I just went with some family, and I could only do like five rides and I gave up. And we even bought like the fast pass because it's like otherwise you're waiting.
Oh,
You're waiting for like 5 hours to get on these things. And it's like that, depending on how busy the park is that day, maybe it'll just take an hour with the fast pass. But we went
yeah.
on this one. I think it might have been the first one we went on, and it was like an intense, like, because it's not even like it's beyond 90 degrees. Like you're going like underneath in this drop. And
Mm-hmm.
I could see like a scenario where people at the front are like really kind of getting the brunt of that, or they like really want to like get the most out of the adrenaline that you would have from that drop. Because it my least favorite part of like any roller coaster ride is like you go up and then you're there and then it just sits there for like what feels like an eternity before it releases and
Uh-huh.
you start the drop and it's just like you can feel that you can feel like every organ in your body like being thrust upwards as you're going down and
Yeah.
it's not a comfortable feeling. So yeah, after five rides I was like I think I'm done, I think I'm good, and
I was
I would
on,
never go back.
yeah, I know, I was on one of those. I was at Knott's Berry Farm recently out here in Anaheim. They had the Berry Festival, which I'd never seen before. I went with my sister and Boy Cried Wolf. And I remember he wanted to go on this thing. I don't even remember any of the names anymore because it just feels like, why? But it was this thing where you sit and the only thing you have is a lap bar and like some handles on either side that are connected to your seat.
Hmm.
There's nothing for you to hold on to in front. There's nothing, so you just feel very exposed and like you could slide out at any point. And the first thing you do in this chair, basically, this chair with a lap bar and two handles on your side, you're basically laid down flat
Hmm.
as you go up. I don't know how many stories. Hi. And you basically, they do the same thing you just described, which is why I'm like nodding with identification, because then you just kind of like crest and then you go straight down, but you don't go. They hold you. And I counted. It was a full 10 seconds, I think,
Mhm.
at least as far as I was counting. I counted every time I watched it happen. And we were doing this in the broad light of day, so you just have the sun beating on your face, and it just, so I just, I closed my eyes on the way up. We crested and I opened them and I looked as we held and I just kept counting calmly while people were losing their minds because all you can think is, I'm going to slide out. I'm going to die. I'm not securely, there's no shoulder protective gear and you do feel like you're going to die. Then you just go and then you just feel
Mhm.
like you're on a regular coaster. But yeah, they make me feel like I'm going to die these days, coasters. So I'll
Yeah.
still go on them. There's one at a Six Flags out here that I still haven't ridden. It's Wonder Woman, and it's like a single file ride, and it's
Mm.
broken every time I or my friend. So I don't even have a frame of reference for what it's like. But you just kind of stand there with your arms outstretched and just kind of feel empowered, I guess. And I want to go on it. I want to feel
Yeah.
empowered like Wonder Woman.
Yeah. I mean, there definitely are moments where it's like you're like, yeah, this is it. But and I would have had those when I was younger, but like now it's more of just like a sick feeling. Like I just don't want to get sick. I hate feeling sick. And
I hear
there's
that.
one, I don't know what the ride is called or what kind of ride. But okay, if you've seen the movie Totally Killer,
Yeah.
the one at the end when they're it's just like it's almost like I want to just say it's a big dreidel.
Yeah. Where
Where
you just
they're like,
spin.
but you go in and you like you kind of you do the thing where you lay back. Is that the one that you're talking about?
That no, like that's the one that I was on was like a full-on coaster, but this you're talking about
Yeah.
the one that it literally spins
It's
to the point
yeah,
where
you
and it
like
tilts
yeah,
like a tilt-a-whirl. It's often called a tilt-a-whirl.
I'm not sure if it might, but like you lean back and it
Mm,
starts to move and it picks up speed, and as it picks up speed, you can't actually move your body. Like you can't move your
yeah.
arms. You can
Hmm.
barely like maybe you can like turn your neck if that to like
Yeah.
look around, but it's like you're just
Yeah.
like it's like
The centrifugal
gravity.
force. Yeah.
Yeah, gravity has just like is like just pushing you down. It's like you're on
Yeah.
Jupiter or something.
There are two
And
of those. There's one in Gotham City, and like out over here we have like a Batman Land, which is Gotham City at Six Flags, and there's one that is outside where those are the ones you usually see people dancing on,
yeah.
and then like there are people who literally stand at carnivals in that version of the ride and just kind of dance freely. I don't know how they don't get
Yeah.
flung back in the centrifugal or centrifugal force, depending on where you're
Centrifugal.
from. Depending on where you're from, because I think the UK say centrifugal. But anyway,
Aluminium.
aluminium, yes,
Aluminium.
the lift and the Snoresburys. But no, the
Iocane powder.
that's right. Piccadilly. But this one we hit everyone. No,
Yeah.
and then there's another one at Six Flags actually where it goes so fast it does not tilt. It is like you're inside of a room, but it goes so fast and they drop. Talk about gravity. They drop the
Mhm.
floor and you're going so fast that you're just pinned to the wall. So you're basically defying gravity at that particular moment because you're being spun so fast. That one I've been
Mm.
on a couple times. It's an experience. I don't know if I'd go on it again because you just kind of have a weird sensation. You're just kind of like,
Yeah.
whoa, and that's it. But in this one, to bring it back to the movie, well, that's one of the things that I actually appreciate about even just the opening credits is the fact that like it it looks aesthetically like even the state of the roller coaster they're going on, it largely looks actually like a kind of Six Flags atmosphere. Like this is a park that is like, permanent. There's a sense of permanence, but there's something about the motif of the opening credits, the things that they keep returning to, like the fortune teller, and
Mhm.
just the balloons are always, looming somewhere in the background, and just this weird ironic use of like a more carnival-like atmosphere, even to like the pinball and the
Yeah.
games that they're playing. Like I really tend to associate that more with like, the scotch tape and adhesive strip carnivals, maybe more akin
Yeah.
to like a
Like
Child's Play
more
3
like
atmosphere.
a pop-up carnival sort
Yeah.
of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, like that. Bus
No,
and
I
truck.
well, I mean, this is like it seems like it's a small town sort of
Yeah.
thing. So yeah, it definitely felt like that. And I don't know where this was filmed. Like I think it was probably in Vancouver.
A lot of Canadian actors in it, so
Yeah.
I would assume as much. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they filmed most of these in
Yeah.
Canada, so I don't know what parks are out that way, but I imagine it would have been, filmed at something more substantial. Because like that ride, like what is it called by the way? The Devil's something or other.
Oh, I wrote it down. Was it Wrath? I can't find it right now, but
Well,
somebody knows.
somebody knows. Somebody's gonna tell us. But and by the way, that's Tony Todd's voice cameo in the
Yes,
movie
as the
as
devil.
yeah. Although I did miss him as Bloodworth, but I'll take the voice of the devil. Devil's Flight.
As will I. Devil's Flight. There you
What
go.
Amethyst is saying. Also, I wanted to just mention so Dementia, the clown had said that the back of the roller coaster is actually more intense since you get whipped around every corner. So Wendy not really thinking that one through.
Yeah, I
She should
mean,
have won in the
well,
front.
she's just thinking visually, like, I don't
Yeah.
know, which is
You're
ironic.
seeing, yeah, like in front of you. It's maybe a little bit more intense for her that way. But
Apparently, this roller coaster is called the Corkscrew. It's at Playland Amusement Park, Pacific National Exhibition Grounds in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. So, yeah,
hmm,
there
there you
you
go.
go. Oh, but it
Yeah.
also says Frankie's death, Queens Avenue. Oh, no, that's Frankie, the character? Yeah. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
That's what was shot there. I'm like, was the roller coaster also called Frankie's Death? Did they shoot on
Yeah.
two red roller coasters? But no, they did not.
Yeah. Also,
Um,
Grant is just reminding us that Tony Todd also voiced the announcer on the subway train at the end.
I forgot about that. Oh, that's
Yeah.
fun.
So that means like
Oh,
Tony Todd is in all of these movies except like I guess he's not in the Final Destination.
I can't even remember. I don't remember that
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah, I know.
I
It's
remember some things about it. I'll
yeah.
watch it again, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, that's
not to
the
show
next
my
one.
hand,
Yeah.
but but I mean, and that was another thing that I appreciated was just like seeing like even though the more we pick it like Wendy's logic, it's the more it'll probably fall apart. But that's okay because this is a fun movie. But there's something about the level of performance that Mary Elizabeth Winstead is giving that's more reminiscent of what Devon Sawa gave in Final Destination, like the
Mhm.
mournfulness and everything like that. Like you mentioned, like the exchange that they had at the was it in the cemetery? No, it wasn't in the cemetery. But they have so many. They have one at the cemetery. They
Mhm.
even just kind of regroup after we just mentioned it, Frankie's death in the drive-through. Like I love the fact that she's sitting there just reflecting on the nature of the presence. Like it's not just something that needs to be beaten, but she says, "Can you feel how vicious it was?" And I love that Kevin's like trying to like reason things out, and she's looking at him like, just take it easy. And he says, literally, "I'm not the total idiot that you think I am," and goes on about willful ignorance. But then again, these contradictions in these characters. I love that. Like I think just a scene later, he's choosing willful ignorance because he doesn't want to see his photo and doesn't want to know how he goes, yet he can't stop asking about it.
Yeah, yeah, he's obsessed with it.
And I hear, again, it feels connected because I can hear Devon Sawa in my head answering Deckard's questions, just kind of going like, "You think it's going to be easier if you know, man? It's not. It's going to be harder, you know?" And I'm just going to like, "Oh, it's all, it feels all in the same family."
Yeah.
But
Too bad all these people are dead because like there could have been a sequel where just like the premonices I don't know premonisers would come together and
Prema, one who has premonitions would, I guess, be a
premonitioner.
premonitioner, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that sounds
Yeah.
like they activate it, and they never seem to be in
No, they can all come
control.
together and just like the powers of premonition. They're just all there like honing their power together.
They all clutch hands in a circle and go, "By the power of premonition," and then
It's
lightning
just like
strikes.
the craft.
These are gifts.
Yeah.
Just whales awash on a beach.
Hmm. Also, for you mentioned the actual ride and location.
Hmm.
Brianna is telling us that they added height and loops onto the coaster with CGI and that it's not that big in real life.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I could tell. Like that,
Yeah.
during the deaths, if that were a real roller coaster, like I didn't time it, but it lasted. It's a damn long roller
Yeah.
coaster, even before they stop, like in the loop and have to like go backwards and everything. Oh, that was another thing I noticed though. This is like a flaw in the armor
Yeah.
for me though. It doesn't. It's not a deal breaker, but it never occurred to me. Sure, something's leaking. Sure, things start kind of falling apart, but it seemed to me, and let me know if I'm wrong, people who watched more closely than I do, um, that the first real, you know me about the first domino, the first real
Yeah.
domino in terms of like the destruction in the disaster
Mhm.
was Frankie's camera being pushed out of his hand by, I believe, Ashlyn and looping around and then kind of derailing the roller coaster. Now, he's one of the people who gets off after the premonitioner gets them all to evacuate because
Yeah.
he's following Ashley and Ashlyn and everything. And he takes his camera with him so it doesn't go on the ride and therefore it doesn't loop around the track. And therefore, shouldn't the disaster be avoided or at least postponed a bit? Like it happens almost
Mhm.
immediately once they're off of the coaster while they're trying
It
to like push her going nuts. And I was like, wow, I never noticed that before.
And I mean, the disaster always happens much faster in
Yeah.
the real time playing out of it.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's a
yeah,
very good point. I guess like maybe that's why they showed the first domino was the like that fluid leaking
yeah,
when they put
yeah.
the thing down. So it's like, if there was someone nitpicky, um, and I didn't even thought about that. So congratulations.
Thank you.
That they could have just said, "Oh, well, it was already like going to derail," but that certainly exacerbated things
Yeah.
much worse. But yeah, that's a little much. Like I think that they could have. I mean, what if that character, or they could have just like had a character who had a video camera who didn't get off the ride. And I mean,
Yeah.
he may as well have just not got off the ride because with Frankie, he doesn't even get to have his own death scene. It's like he's not really he's just sort of like a surprise cameo. Surprise
Right.
cameo just for you, Mary Elizabeth.
Surprise cameo just for you. You can always tie Scream back in. How many times have we mentioned it now?
Well, you started it with "Get out of my house," but
Actually, I think I started it with the mention of Scary Movie being preceding so many
yeah,
18-year-olds like experience to Scream. But anyway, go on.
right, yeah. Um, yeah, I was more thinking like the thing that was annoying me was
Yeah.
the fact that Wendy has the whole premonition, and at no point that like she's seeing like in vivid detail, well, not vivid detail, because we as an audience aren't seeing like how everyone's dying other than just getting like whipped around and thrown out, but she's seeing like specific characters to know, I guess, later on that like I guess the sequence of death, which is
Yeah.
another gripe that I have with this, but the like she at least knows everyone who's on the ride or just like seeing who dies. So one, why is she not seeing her sister and her sister's friend as part of that group? And two, we see all the people who get off the ride.
Yeah.
And Wendy is there. And Wendy is the last person because she's escorted out. And
You're
we see all the people
right.
get off. So at no point do we see the sister. I don't even remember the sister's name, but we don't see her there
Julie.
at all.
Yeah.
Julie, thank you. And it there's just something about that that just feels, a little sloppy. There was also another thing that when they lifted up the shoulder restraints, it showed like
Mhm.
another car like that was empty where they came up on. So I don't know if that was supposed to be like there was just like another car there, and it made me think of House on Haunted Hill with like the two cars like moving at once. But
Oh,
that felt like confusing to me. Like, why is that shot in there? Why did we need to see that? If that was like supposed to be telling us something.
oh.
Um, so yeah, the whole thing with the sister, just felt a little, you know, handled sloppy for
Okay.
me. Yeah.
Yeah, see, again, like the more we scratch at the logic of it, like the less fun I guess there is to be
I'm
had. I don't. No,
sorry.
no, 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 no. Because this is the thing. You're not taking my fun away. I can still watch this movie and have a very, very good time. But the
Yeah.
thing is, I think ultimately that that's not what it's being introduced for, to be like sat there and scrutinized and just kind of like go like, yeah, but that doesn't add up. I mean, I think ultimately the strengths in it, again, for me, because I lean on the interpersonal. Like you mentioned Julie, I like the fact that I believe that they're actual sisters and that it could
Hmm.
have just been an antagonistic relationship between the two of them, but the fact that they seem to walk a line the way actual sisters were, like Julie's even introduced as like she's full on giving her sister both fingers, and her parents basically, their parents basically,
With her little beret.
with her little beret and and wearing her grandmother's bracelet that's so precious to her. She's wearing it at an amusement park where it could fly off at any moment. But don't wear things that are precious to you in an amusement park, folks. But that's the biggest lesson you can take from this movie. But
Yeah.
I like the fact that like she's even, to bring up the bracelet, like she's just like, this is mine. Grandma gave this to me. I'm a bitch, and this is what you can expect from me. And this is what you this is how you met me, and this is where I still am. And all it takes is like Wendy just going like, Julie, and she stops in her tracks and just realizes, oh shit, like something real's going down. And and she's just like, just please tell me you'll visit me or whatever. Like when I finally get settled, she's like, of course I will. And I'm just kind of like, oh, this is awesome. And then again, it turns on a dime again. When they kind of make amends, she's going to charge the camera for her. She's going to go off and get ready to go. And then Julie comes back in, and Wendy's on her thing, her final destination thing as the premonitioner.
Yeah.
And
She's David Warner. Yeah.
exactly, she's David Warner. You're looking at the photos, just kind of like, I need a little privacy. And her sister's just like, and immediately they're back to antagonizing each other. And I just love that it flips and flops throughout the entire movie to the point where at the end, when they're on the train, they see each other, and it's almost like they've matured in 5 months. They seem genuinely happy to see each other because they don't have to see each other every day. They don't have to share a house with each other, and they don't have to
Yeah.
like dodge their parents and like play these roles anymore. And every one of these roles actually does something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you say she's matured?
Matured. Matured.
Speaking of the subway, Grant Dempsey has a question for
Yes.
the
What?
discussion of the ending. Does the subway disaster happen because Wendy, Deckard, and Julie are there? So Death gets a whole extra disaster out of everything, or was that just another disaster in Death's plan all along, and Death just conveniently lumped them into it?
I feel like it was a cruel prank from Death on for particularly Wendy, by giving her yet another premonition, because like that's traumatic going through them premonitions like that. When you
Yeah.
get another one where you're convinced like, oh my God, this is the end, and then you pop right back just in time to know that you're gonna get derailed and die. I feel like, yeah, I think it was because they were on that train, and I feel because I mean it's, just like how the second movie introduced like we were all supposed to die in the first movie, but we
Yeah.
didn't. So now it's catching up with us in a whole other movie. The epilogue is kind of like its own, for me, beginning of the
Yeah.
movie. And anyone who survives that subway, see, that would be an interesting, if we want to like deal with survivors. If anybody
Mhm.
survived that subway disaster at the end of this movie, you can make another movie there and bridge it between that and the final
Yeah.
destination if you want.
So yeah, you're just kind of going from disaster to disaster, trying to avoid it for
Yeah.
the rest of your life. I mean, that could be an interest. So, like, just to switch things up for like a future Final Destination movie,
Yeah.
rather than like having it be one disaster that you kind of like sidestep and then you just watch all the people who got off just systematically get killed one by one, you can
Yeah.
have a thing where, and it could even take place over like the span of like several years to
Yeah.
just show a character who survives death, and then it's just like every couple of years it's just sort of like, okay, now like you're always on the lookout, like how are we, how do you keep doing it until they get to a point at the end like, is this even worth, like, just kill me now, this is no way to live, to always like just like devote your life to like avoiding death, that they would
Yeah.
just sort of make the decision to give up in a sense and just let death take you. Or maybe an interesting concept would be, what's Death's movie? And I mean, like, I know that, R.I.P. Tony
Mm.
Todd, and this was never confirmed of whether he was Death or not.
Yeah.
or just this like actual mortician character. But if there was like a death character and we were just sort of seeing like um their logic of everything, and maybe it's just like they have a quota to meet and it's just like, sorry, I gotta like take care of you and you, and here's these like meddling kids who sidestep a disaster, and it's just like I'm gonna get them, and the whole movie is just like death doing everything they can to
Well,
get rid of them.
but I have to say, I see death as a little bit more gleaning a little bit more joy because I mean, again, like she alludes to how vicious. I keep saying allude. That's the
Mhm.
term of this pod, but of this particular episode. But Wendy's sitting there like referencing how vicious it was. And there's something about the maliciousness of the Force that I feel from movie one. Like, Death is an asshole in these movies. And I
Mhm.
almost feel like there's a delectability, like a kind of irresistible sumptuousness about like watching us dangle, like watching us be conscious of the inescapability of our fate and just kind of watching us dangle on the line like a worm on a hook. A worm on a hook! I'm Ursula now. But I think
Body
yeah,
language.
right. But I feel like there is this kind of like satiation that this appetite that's being satiated by death. Because I mean, the thing is, this is the thing. Once somebody has the premonition, so they can escape. Is that good intervening to try to escape the fate? But you can't because you cannot escape death, and because it will come harder and harder and harder for you. It will
Mhm.
manifest as a shadow, like in the first movie, or it will control the water. Really big into controlling water. Doesn't do that a lot in this one,
Mhm.
but but it will come at you with even a more aggressive force because at least in the disaster, those are all things that seem to just kind of like be happen. Well, I don't know if that's true. Like that's a freak accident, the camera looping a few times around the track to derail the coaster. But it's gonna come, it will come equally as hard, let's at least put it that way, at you with a vengeance to eliminate you. So what if death is the one giving the premonition just to start the torture, like in the smallest way possible? Let's just see the ripple effect. Like how many people are going to follow this tormented person who saw their own expiration in conjunction with all these other people, and how much fun am I going to have like watching them take a few days to mourn the losses and everything. I feel like
Yeah.
if it's, I don't know if it's death or a demon, but whatever it
Yeah.
is, it feels like a definitely malevolent force.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that because Grant just said that he gets the vibe that that death is responsible for giving the premonitions.
Ooh,
Because otherwise it's like what it's almost like I want to create a challenge for myself.
right.
And if it's not death, then what is it like some like higher being deity that's just sort of like opposing death, and it's like, well, I'm gonna like there's this whole war that's being waged outside of like the characters of this movie of just like
Yeah.
death and life, and the playing field is the roller coaster. Um, there is apparently there's an alternate scene on the DVD, according to Amethyst, where Julie is actually present after the survivors get off the ride, but she's hidden in a gray hoodie and sunglasses. But in the final cut, they removed that scene, which probably makes
Mm.
sense because she wasn't wearing those at any point before, and that just sounds silly. But I guess it's just one of those, they wanted a last minute twist, and it just never. It wasn't like, oh my God, like mind blown, Julie, not Julie being there the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, again, like it's hilarious to imagine her just like escaping, kind of like, like decked out like the Unabomber. But I also like the fact that she should even have like a mustache. But that would have been topical at the time. But there's something about it would have been interesting maybe if, because I like the fact that when Wendy sees the bracelet, she doesn't immediately jump to the conclusion that it's Julie. She says it could be Julie. She's wearing the exact same bracelet that Julie got from my grandmother. What if they found
Mhm.
out that it was a case of mistaken identity and there was just some random girl who had a very similar bracelet on who died in the roller coaster, and
Mhm.
Julie's photo, that's not the photo that they have to worry about Julie dying in. Kind of like the one, who was the other one that they thought it was one? Oh, the asshole, Frankie,
Mhm.
the one who crosses boundaries. They thought they thought it was going to be the one of him like winning the little girly. mud flap thing, the
Right.
keychain, when really it was another one of him with the fan in the back of his head. They could have done the same thing with Julie, you know?
Yeah. And it's okay, so this is where, okay, the photos of it all.
Yeah,
Because there's like there were some reaches
yeah.
with a lot of them. Especially, I mean, no more than like I guess Wendy's clue herself of just like the McKinley t-shirt.
Hmm.
And it's just like I don't know remember what movie it was we were talking about, just like where like characters make these like wild um like just like they have these epiphanies that are just like based on like two separate things that have no relation
Right,
whatsoever, but
right.
somehow like it's almost like the old Batman and Robin, like
Yes,
Adam West show where
I
they're
was
just
just
like
gonna say.
putting together the Riddler's clues and just like no, that's
Yeah, I
not
can.
what this is.
Wait,
But
I have to do the whole thing. It's in the Batman, the old Adam West Ward 1966 movie that they did, where it's the core four of the
yeah,
villains, and they're sitting there just
yeah,
kind of like, wait a minute, that because the exploding shark is trying to eat Batman, and he ends up defeating it, and they're all sitting there in Commissioner Gordon's office and trying to figure it out. Who could it be? And all four of the core four are at large, so they're like, well, that exploding shark was pulling my leg. You mean it's the Joker? And then it's just like pretty fishy what happened to me up there. You mean where there's a fish, there could be a penguin? And then it's like, but wait, it happened at sea. See? See for Catwoman. And then Chief O'Hara rounds it all up by saying, all adds up to a sinister riddle. Riddle-er. And they just sit there and go like, the four of them, their forces combined. And it builds it up in a way that when I was a kid, I didn't question. I was just kind of like, that all makes sense to me. And now I watch it as a kid, I'm just like, what the fuck? As an adult, and I'm just like, what
that's
the
right.
fuck? This is campy as fuck, and I'm
Yeah.
here for it. And you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, but so Wendy's like looking for the clue and she's like, "Well, I've got my McKinley shirt." And she's like, "It's McKinley." And
yeah, right.
there's this whole to do of just like there's the moment where he's just like, "Why do I have to go to a school with the same last name as me?" Or like
Yeah,
whatever it is.
yeah.
And I don't even think it's the school, it's the town because they're like at
It's
one point it's
both.
like the
It's both.
McKinley thing, but apparently just the school is he's gonna say. So it just and his character too, there's a lot of questions that I still have with all of that at the end. But
Yeah.
I guess um the death order, because at one point it felt like they were playing kind of fast and loose with like who's next sort of thing. And it didn't feel like it was almost like they were dipping in and out of who dies first in the premonition, like just like the way it was in the first movie. Was I
Yeah.
just maybe not paying enough attention, or did you find this too?
This is the thing. This is where my pre-Zach Cherry mind really shows itself, and I wear it proudly because I've said on the pod before, I never wondered whether it was Stu or Billy behind the mask. When I would watch Scream, I just kind of assumed every now and then, like maybe that's that, maybe that's that, but I never really deciphered until we did the pod and I had to watch it with
Yeah.
like a discerning eye and go like, well,
Mm,
clearly, and then we disagreed pretty much across the board
mm,
on who was who at what points in the kill. Watching this one, when they try to like figure out the order and everything like that, I never follow the numbers. I'm much more just there to just kind of like watch their wheels spin, watch how, each loss is impacting them. And also, to be completely honest, like there were two kills in particular, one of them that I alluded to earlier,
mm,
which I feel is kind of like I don't know if I could call it the centerpiece, but it's the one that comes to mind aside from the roller coaster scenario
mm,
when I think about this movie, and it's the tanning beds.
mm.
There's something about, again, the music, and also just like the way the actress is. There's something, the gratuitous nudity actually feels somewhat kind of like nostalgic for me. Like it makes me think, oh yeah, there weren't a lot of horror movies that were exposing breasts just for the sake of exposing them. And granted, they're tanning, so it makes sense why they would. But there's something about it because it's playful, because the actresses seem completely self-possessed until they're subjected to the wrath of death. I almost said
Mhm.
God. And, and And also, I feel like that death really just builds upon one phobia after another. Like first, there's like just the heat. There's the claustrophobia. There's the broken glass. That people
Hmm.
must imagine when I've never been in a tanning bed, but I have a feeling I'd be thinking it if I laid on glass like that.
Hmm.
Then there's the sense of like the being trapped and being unable to get out, screaming for help and no one is coming, and then finally fire, being burned.
Yeah.
And the fact that it jump cuts from that to like the twin coffins laying there.
Mm.
Whoo! I'm all about it. Like
Yeah.
every time I watch that scene, I feel like I've got a great big smile on my face, and that's almost congratulatory to the filmmakers, the actors, the cinematographers, the special
Yeah.
effects artists, everybody across the board.
Well, I
It's
was
like
gonna
I
say
just want to
that
give it.
the cinematography in this one is, like really stands out,
It does.
comparative to the last two for sure. The tanning bed death scene is probably one of my favorites of like from what I can remember, even like moving beyond this movie in the
Yeah,
franchise. I think it's probably right up there, at least like top five, top three maybe.
absolutely. Yeah.
And I love like all the moving parts of it. I love the tube of tanning lotion like leaving the door like propped open, and just how this somehow squeezes everything out, and just like the door, like there's
Yes.
literally no room left that the door closes.
Yeah.
And just like everything that's happened, that they've put up the sign, they've closed it, the moisture from the Slurpee cups,
Yeah.
or whatever it is, like just everything about it is like you said, building upon itself. It just makes it so satisfying.
Yeah.
And I think the most frightening part of it is when like the shelf comes down and like literally traps them in
Yeah.
where they can't open it. And I mean, like, it's also such a good kill because it's something like everyone has been in a tanning bed. And if you haven't, you at least know a tanning bed,
If you haven't, you know why
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
haven't.
you know why you haven't, but you know what a tanning bed is. And it's
Oh
just
yeah.
like
Oh yeah.
it's a thing. So it's just like it's one of those things, like if you've been in one, there's a claustrophobia to it. And being stuck in one is just like it's a very scary thing. Which I mean, I look back to I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, which is we talked about that scene in the
Yeah.
movie, which is just so ridiculous because like comparative to that, she was oh, I think she just had like a one of those like um strap ties closing her in to the thing.
Right.
But he didn't turn up like the heat or anything. It was just a timer. So he just like turned it up. So I think maybe she would have been in there for 20 minutes or whatever.
Got broiled
Um
with the zip
yeah,
tie.
but
Yeah.
there was like so much room to like, come out, and or like even when the friends came in and they were um panicking and couldn't figure, like, rather than unplug it or turn it off,
Yeah.
they got the dumbbell and just busted her out of there, probably making it more dangerous because there was now broken glass and electrical short circuits. But it's, I look at this and it's like this whole scenario is so terrifying, but
Mhm.
also so much fun at the same time. And I think that
Yeah.
that's, like I said, that's where, the strength of this franchise lies in just like being able to have that visceral effect and be scary,
Mhm.
but also allow it to be so much fun.
Yeah, the immediacy is definitely scary, but there is there's a reason I smile while I watch it. And this is another thing I love. I love that I'm not watching it with a smile on my face because they deserve it or anything like that. I love the fact that, again, with Dimension, like there's a sliver of it introduced even with these characters, with Ashley and Ashlyn, because we've only kind of watched them be harassed, but treat it with like a complete disregard and just kind of like, barely tolerate it and walk away. And then we see after everyone's mourning in that bluish hue, we go from the like kind of like a wash in red in the opening, and then all of a sudden everything's blue because we're mourning now. But I love the fact that Ashley and Ashlyn almost, kind of go against what you would expect from them. They're like, you know what, let's go invite her to go tanning with us. And I'm like, oh, actually being kind of decent. That's cool. But then they walk away saying the line I opened this pod with, it's kind of like, oh, that was
With
so nice of us.
with
They're just like,
within earshot, like they just didn't even get far enough away or say it quiet enough that
no.
she wouldn't hear it. But I think what's funny is that like she was already crumpling up that paper before they even said it. So
Oh,
it's like
yeah.
she didn't want to hang out with them. But I did find it hilarious that she crumpled up the paper, but like still kept it in her pocket
Yeah.
and went all the way home with it. Like
Yeah.
a lot more.
It's like you would have just trashed it or at least just
Yeah.
chucked it somewhere. But
Yeah.
I also love the fact that that they can be so like they're obviously like introduced to be these kind of vapid,
Hmm.
superficial, self-obsessed character or self-absorbed
Yeah.
characters, and yet I'm entertained before their death because they're sitting there. I think I laughed out loud when one girl I think is exiting the tanning area and they're both
Hmm.
sitting there like just waiting to get their tan started. And I think it's Ashley, the blonde one, is
Yeah.
just sitting there sipping her drink, and she just kind of like looks up and down the girl as she's leaving, like, I don't know if I'm gonna look like her. You know, she should get her money back. Like she's just got this bitchy expression on her face where
Yeah.
she's judging her, and I don't know. There's something about it I found so humorous, and then I like the fact that they're also almost instrumental in their own demise because they disregard the posted signs and everything like that. Yet I still
Yeah.
don't watch it going like, see, that's what you get. I'm just kind of like, oh,
Well,
that's awful. That's
and
awful.
that's another thing with some of these movies, where it's like the question of like, did like, was death like actually targeting you, or was it one of those things where death just sort of like sat back and like they're gonna take care of themselves?
But it is the kill, I think, next to the
Yeah.
roller coaster I associate with
Yeah.
this one the most. Oh, and I also, again, there's more dimension lent to them, even that endows McKinley with more dimension at their funeral because I guess it's a priest. I don't remember. I didn't look at his collar, but whoever's speaking at
Hmm.
the podium or the lectern, whatever it may be, is talking about death being the great equalizer and how it's the thing that kind of like, puts us all on common ground and everything like that, regardless of how we lived. And I love that he's speaking out of turn, defending these girls that he was just making fun of with Aaron in the scene that we just referenced. It was just like, that was so nice of us. They're looking at him going, basically. And then it's just like, these girls didn't ever do anything to anyone. Why did they deserve this? And I'm like, oh, see, I would have expected you to be like, God, I can't believe we're mourning these, or even just to be a blank slate. Like
Yeah.
I'm
It's
here in name only, but I'm not, my heart isn't in it. But McKinley actually gets really affected by these words. And I'm like, oh,
yeah.
you didn't care about them while they were alive. Interesting.
It's that character is very inconsistent for me.
Yeah,
Because that whole moment felt very out of character. I just want to say real quick.
yeah,
So the Garrison is saying that one of those actresses is in Black Christmas. The one who, I guess the dark-haired one, she was one of the sorority girls with Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
right. Who did
And
she play?
I don't remember the character's name, but I guess she
Okay.
was like the Margot Kidder one who was just really drunk and
Okay.
brash and was
Right.
like put to
But
bed early.
didn't get nearly as much screen time as Margot Kidder did, and didn't make nearly as much of an
Yeah.
impact. Not her fault, but yeah.
Yeah. And
So I
then
don't remember her.
the other one, according to Dementio, is she was in the 1990 version of It. I think she played the little girl who that Pennywise
Right.
eats first, and then the also in the 2002 TV version of Carrie. I don't know which character she
That's
played.
right.
Yeah,
Was she Chris Hargensen?
I don't know.
I don't remember. I have to watch all of these again.
Yeah,
It's been such a long time, and I'm making my way through like I'm rebuilding my collection, and I'm gonna rewatch everything. But
yeah.
it takes time. It takes time when you got a full-time job. But
The but yeah, speaking of McKinley,
yeah,
because yeah, this is a character that just and this goes back to like the whole like the death order
yeah,
and all of that shit. But it's like he's like full on just like a skeptic, like every other character was.
yeah.
Like the guy when they went to the gym and yada yada yada. So it feels like with the writing, we're not really catering any specific character to be a certain thing. It's just like this is the default for everyone. And he's a skeptic, and then all the stuff happens at the warehouse where I get, is that his girlfriend? Like it's not very clear
I mean, that's
what
the
they're,
vibe I got because he's so affected by her death, and it is a grisly death. I forget
yeah,
about that one, but when I saw it this time, I winced. I was like, and
yeah.
even his reaction, like I thought this is really wonderfully carried out
Yeah.
the way I.
But during that whole scene, it's just like he's just going on and on about like how this is bullshit. And at one point he like slips and almost like goes face first into this buzzsaw and he just
Mm.
sort of like laughs it off like and yeah, and then she gets the nail gun thing and he's, really affected by it. But then like in the next section of the movie, he's sort of like resorted to being this like creepy stalker who's like
Yeah,
now it's his mission to kill Wendy for some reason or like he has some nefarious design on her and it's never like I the connection isn't there it's never like spelled out like why
yeah.
this is happening we don't even know what he's doing it's just this whole thing that goes back to the photo McKinley it has something to do with McKinley because that's on my shirt it's like we were out at sea so it's Catwoman sea and he there's the whole thing and he's like I'm invincible
Yeah.
he's Alan Cumming from GoldenEye suddenly and it's none of it is explained because there's not like a whole thing where it skips her at least like I don't remember her
See, I
being in
don't,
any
yeah.
mortal danger. I remember the sister Julie because she almost like she was being pulled by the horse
Right, right.
and Deckard like cut the rope at the last minute before she was like dragged through that rake thingy. But then Deckard almost got like a face full of fire and Julie or
Right.
not Julie Wendy pulled him off.
When,
But
yeah.
I don't remember Wendy being at any point like in danger of death or something because it was always just like it's McKinley he's going to cause it but then McKinley is just like standing there and he's taunting them and that's like the fireworks or whatever that then caused the thing to crush him and
Huh.
I feel like there's something interesting about that and I know in the fifth movie and I don't want to like jump ahead too much because there's like
Uh-huh.
this whole other aspect of death that was introduced and there was kind of like a
Yeah.
character I guess of that archetype of just like
Yeah. Who jumped on it?
the douchebag, yeah. So it would have been interesting if this was played up more, and he kind of just went around and was just like he's in a position now where it's like I'm not gonna die, and it's almost like Carter, your favorite in the original, where he was
Uh,
like sort of like I'm
yeah.
the safest person on earth. That like we actually played with that, and we saw that like here's someone who is under the impression I'm invincible and I can do like I have like full power of my fate and yada yada
Yeah.
yada and like doing some crazy shit. And that would have worked if there was a reason for him to be so like hung up on this shit and pissed off at her, but it just felt like it was just like things that were shoehorned in and it just wasn't adding up with any of the logic that was set up. It's not playing by the rules that the movie had created.
I can't argue with any of that because I do agree. I think of all the characters, McKinley is probably the most. Also because the amount of time that he takes up, particularly this late in the movie, like he's just kind of like a commentator for a while, and then when he finally becomes a more active participant, all of a sudden there's all these fluctuations, and I think he's probably the most poorly designed character, or at least as far as consistency is concerned. Like I talked about liking the contradiction because I think people are contradictory often, and I think it makes us interesting. But that said, he does make some pretty uh, easy jumps, I'd say, from a writing standpoint. Like we could have gone for another draft with that character, with attention paid to that character, because I mean, again, I could see more so this time than any other time that they could kind of maybe something they were trying to employ. Like I wrote down when McKinley was going on about death, just kind of postulating about it in the warehouse. I wrote McKinley's healthy, almost academic detachment from the idea of death goes awry once it's personal and no longer theoretical. And it's done really abruptly, obviously, but
Mhm.
I do see that the seed was planted kind of early because again, back at the funeral, like he does something completely out of character by defending these girls he didn't even really have any kind of relationship with because it was connected to something real, something that like actually had some kind of impact on the course of his life that particular day. So when it cut even more deeply and Aaron was taken away from him, and not even taken away, but like viciously killed by this invisible force right in front of his eyes. I don't understand the connecting the dots to Wendy, because he even does accuse Wendy. He believes that Aaron was killed because of Wendy, and that feels like a really, really, really bare, thin thread,
Mm,
to connect those
yeah.
two ideas. It's like, I lost her and it's your fault because you introduced this whole idea of it. It's like all of a sudden, I do, but
He
again,
was he was doing his own Commissioner Gordon
he was.
speculating.
But one thing that I do kind of appreciate about it is like, I've heard people criticize, I mean, horror at large for misogyny and kind of like, and thusly a kind of toxic masculinity in the destruction of, like women and everything like that. But one thing that I like is that toxic masculinity is present in this movie as it was present in the first movie in particular. I don't remember it particularly. It's probably in the second movie, but it wasn't introduced in a way that resonated with me. But you brought up Carter, the first movie. He was like the alpha male toxic influence of that movie, and everything you watched him do, it was like almost like a morality tale of like, see you guys, don't do this. Anybody, non-binary women, whatever, look at this, don't do it. And I feel like a lot of the men are examples of that in this, like kind of like the way Deckard is introduced. It's like, oh, there's things I don't like about you, but once you start letting the disaster impact you and like, give you some time to stop and ask yourself, what's the most important thing that I can do to try and have a positive impact on the people around me and even on myself, the more interesting you get. And I feel like, because I remember initially the toxic male aside, well, I mean, there's two. There's Frankie, who never really gets redeemed. So when he dies, maybe that's why he doesn't get to be the centerpiece of his own demise, because he's not worth it. But but I feel like the movie's almost saying like, yeah, he's not worth it. He dies, you wanted it, we gave it to you. Let's move on, because nobody's going to that funeral. But then the next one was Lewis, and his death was right on the heels of Frankie's. And I feel like it was another prime example that basically cinematic manspreading is not rewarded in this saga. Like the more you kind of try to take up room with your puffed up manliness or whatever, the more death is just going to go like blink and just take you out, like in the blink of an eye, and not even think. I didn't even muss my hair, says death. So so maybe, and again, you know me, I love headcanon. So maybe what they were trying to do with McKinley is just kind of show another prime example of someone who, I mean, that actor, Chris Lemke or Lemche, however you pronounce his last name. He was
Hmm.
in a few things in the time. I know
Ginger
he was in
snaps.
Ginger Snaps. He
Yeah.
was also God in a couple times in Joan of Arcadia, that Amber Tamblyn thing. And he's the first God that she meets when God's like
Okay.
talking to her, and she asks him literally like, "Is it okay that I kind of think you're hot?" And it's like, well, this isn't really the way I look. But I remember thinking, God, he's charismatic as fuck. Look at that kid. And I was his age at the time, so it's okay to say that. But watching him in this, the way he's introduced, that's one of the characters who I feel like I'm most closely aligned with. So then when you see him take this turn, it's a very, very sloppy way to do it. But again, it's kind of like the morality tale of like, look what happens when you let your emotions overtake your better
Hmm.
qualities, to the point where you feel indestructible, and even more importantly, feel
Yeah.
entitled to destroy those around you and even take joy in it. So I mean, again, sloppy as fuck, but I think what maybe the intent with that character was for the
Yeah.
first time after the screening.
Well, there was another idea that was thrown out there, and Grant actually is bringing it up, so that he
Ooh,
did suggest, and this is before Aaron's death, he did
yeah,
suggest to Wendy that she kill herself, or actually, I think it was like who's going to kill themselves
yeah,
as a way to short circuit Death's plan.
right.
And I don't remember, there in two, the whole thing at the end with the ambulance, which was just messy. I don't even remember it, but like we haven't seen like a and maybe that's just because the subject matter is a little too grim, but like
Yeah.
of that like actually being a serious storyline in any of these movies of just sort
Yeah.
of like, what if you took the fate into your own hands that way and there was someone who was just sort of like making that ultimate sacrifice for everyone, but it's also then goes against like the rules that have been set up because it just shows that like, well, it just skips over, like
Hmm.
the cycle just restarts. It's almost like if it misses you, it's just going to circle back around until nobody's left, so you're not really doing anything. All you're doing is just like delaying the inevitable,
Yeah.
as you would be like you're just taking yourself, you're doing death's job. Maybe
Yeah.
there is a movie to be like a story and a movie to be made there of just sort of like what that would do for death, because it's sort of like death doesn't have control over that.
Mm.
Actually, like I'm trying to think because I don't remember 4 and 5. I haven't watched them in a while, but is there a scenario where someone is trying to kill themselves and it's just like nothing is, it's just like, or it was in
Yeah.
two. It was in two.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
that I'm thinking, where he had the gun and it didn't fire.
Right.
Right.
Um,
Okay. We talked
the,
about this. I see. This is how little I remember.
yeah, it didn't
Yeah.
resonate with me in a significant way. It was more like, again, kind of like the way I'm quote unquote defending McKinley.
Yeah.
I'm like, I see you movie, and I think I saw what it was doing. I just didn't feel like it was executed successfully there either.
Yeah.
But I mean, even the way it's introduced here, it's abandoned pretty quickly because I
Yeah.
feel like it does because it's introduced almost like that's going to be the next leg that we're going to go on. Kind of like, he's killing them in Scream 2. He's killing them in the order that they die in the script,
Yeah.
or whatever. Or no, in Scream
Scream
3 they
three.
actually
Yeah.
do, but in Scream 2 he kill no, not in the order that they actually die. Sorry, but with the Maureen and the
Yeah.
yeah, whatnot. But
Scrithrium. Yeah.
Scrithrium, but but I don't know. There's
Well, that's
this
the
is the
thing. It's
most
just
yeah, this is the most I've ever thought about this movie. That's so funny.
no, but like that's the thing. It's just like there's these ideas that are just like that are presented, they're put on the table, but they're
Yeah.
not developed in a way that it's almost like, well, then don't bother. Like you're setting something up to like not actually pay it off in any
Yeah.
real or meaningful way or something that's going to move the story forward. And yeah, it just feels like there's a lot of that in this franchise.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's funny though, because it's such a bleak outlook on paper. I can imagine what it must be like to read the scripts for these movies. And I feel like the fun is from the filmmaking itself, like what you do on set or on location. I don't know
Mhm.
how much of it's actually built into the script, aside from like, Deckard wanting to know, like, well, how do I go? No, don't tell me. What? Is there anything up my ass? Oh, Jesus. But that I did not laugh at. I was there with Mary Elizabeth Winstead rolling my eyes at him. But I feel like it's odd to associate such a bleak outlook, or what could be on paper such a bleak outlook, with like you mentioned, the fun
Yeah.
to be had in these movies, because I don't think bleak when I think about these movies. They actually feel kind of at times like diet horror to me, like like easily
Mhm.
consume, or not diet because that sounds like you're denying yourself something, but easily consumable horror
Mhm.
that I can watch with a little bit of a, at its best, like a little bit of a personal thing going on where I'm like, oh, I really like that. I really like that. But I just, the course of it won't affect the rest of my day. I'm not going to walk away from it, like doing what we're doing right now, which is basically picking it apart and going, because I never
Yeah.
walked away from any of these movies, except for the ones that I dislike more, going like, what was wrong with that? I kind of just go like, I like that ride. Okay, I'll move on
Mhm.
and go on with my life, which
Yeah.
is odd, but because it doesn't make me more afraid of death. But maybe this isn't my hot button issue either. Like I know
Yeah.
we can tend to be more inclined to, like, Leatherface, the remoteness, the inevitability of the death, and the lack of being able to kind of like reason your way out of it. You can't really coerce Leatherface not to kill you, and the fact that you can scream as loud as you want, you're on Earth, no one's ever going to hear you, and you're going to suffer who knows for how long, and maybe no one will know what your name was. Someone's not going to show up in a movie 20 some years later and go like, tell me their names, Leatherface, don't you even remember me? Like nobody's gonna, I want to hear you say their names. It's like, well, bitch, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, but I mean, it might be fun to just like, say Devon Sawa comes back and he has a I know what you did last summer moment where he just throws his arms up in the air and screams up at Death like, "What are you waiting for, Death? Come on."
Or time
I'm
travel
back.
gets
I'm
time,
back. What are you?
or time travel gets introduced, and that's how they all meet each other. Like Devon Sawa travels to each movie and pulls the premonitioner out,
Oh wow.
and then they Doctor Who into some kind of like alternate plane where they can
I
confront
mean,
death
if
as a tangible being.
if they're gonna MCU the Final Destination franchise, like they may as well. Like there's nothing that they can't
Yeah,
do at this point that like it's like this is a franchise that has permission to go off the rails.
yeah, it does.
I just wish that like it was more focused on whatever ideas that it threw out there. Also, apparently in four there is a character who does try multiple times
I don't
to
remember.
off themselves. Yeah,
I'll have to watch it again.
I
For
barely remember. I've seen it twice.
Yeah, I've seen it, I think maybe 3 or 4 times, but it doesn't resonate with me. Again, I remember images. I remember, oh yeah, this is the sequence where that happens, but I dip out of that movie really quick.
Yeah,
We can talk about why if we ever
yeah,
cover it, but yeah.
yeah. Yeah, that's fair. Well, we will. I mean, we're making our way through it. But
There is the theme of a lack of control that I appreciate in this one too. The fact that
yeah.
like they really spell it out in no uncertain terms that Wendy likes to have control. Even she's conscious of it. But I'm
Oh,
like,
they
that's
mentioned she's a control freak like
yeah, yeah,
every
yeah.
other minute. In case you
Yeah.
forgot.
And then she's reminding people, in case you forgot, I'm a control freak.
Yeah.
But there's something about it that I feel is deeply rooted in kind of like the inevitable mortality, that
Yeah.
teens were outrunning in the first movie. So I don't know. I don't mind it being self-conscious enough to put it on Front Street in this one. So end
Oh.
of the day, it's a thumbs up from me, dog.
So what does that equate to in letterboxd scoreage?
Oh, do you have one at the ready? Because I have to think for a second.
I would say this is a solid 3.5 for me. I think that it serves everything that it needs to serve. And I think that like that, and this being my favorite so far, I feel like this is a 3.5 franchise for me.
Okay.
Like I enjoy, and 3.5 is good. 3.5 is
Yeah.
good for horror.
Hmm.
Like I have a lot of fun. I think that like the second one, I don't remember if we letterboxed that, but that was like, probably three. But the first one, I'd say 3.5.
Yeah, I don't remember if
Yeah.
if I did the second one. I feel like it would be even lower for me, but we're
Yeah.
not doing that pod, so I don't need to think about that one. I
Well,
think for this one, I would actually there's a wider margin for me because I feel like the wins really kind of like outweigh the losses for me.
mhm.
So because like I said, this is the most I've ever thought about it, and even thinking about it, I'm like I could literally put it on again right now and still enjoy the ride. So it's a 4. I'll give it a solid
Oh,
4. I
nice.
enjoy
Yeah.
it that much. Yeah.
Amethyst gives it 3.5. Grant gives it 3.5.
Okay.
Silent Saturn gives it 2.5. Ooh,
Oh, okay.
spicy.
No, 2.5 is an
Yeah.
interesting rating for me because I give that to things where I feel like there's equally as much to criticize as there is to praise. And that doesn't mean it's a bad movie. That makes it actually really interesting to talk about. I like a
Yeah.
2.5. Yeah.
Well, I mean, what did you give Jason Goes to Hell 1.5 today? I
That was
was,
a 1.5 because I actually like, I think, when the uncut versions of the
Mhm.
kills, or not all the kills, but when they're revealed, like I feel like the practical effects are fun, and I'm not a fan of the filmmaking or the humor, but I had a gay awakening watching Tony the Wonder Llama, in the tent being all naked and showing off that side, that space
Anyway.
between your stomach and your leg, like it's hot. So I gave, yeah, well, it's worth a 1.5 for
Yeah.
effort,
Well,
for
I
effort.
I was just saying because I was spying your your scores today on Letterboxd, but
Yeah,
yeah, I
yeah.
don't know where that one would. I think the last time I gave it a score, it was like half a star. But I haven't watched it in a long time, so it's just I feel like my perspective on movies like constantly is becoming more and more fine-tuned
Yeah.
to know like I can immediately think of something and be like, oh, that's 3.5. So
Yeah.
half might be, a bit low for
The
Jason
things
Goes
I've
to
given
Hell.
half a star, it's basically
Yeah.
like you are irredeemable. That, and I don't think Jason Goes to Hell is irredeemable, but it is my least favorite of the franchise.
Yeah.
So yeah.
For I mean like for movies like Halloween Resurrection, which is just like such a miserable time to me. I think like I previously like might have given it one, but I could go one and a half potentially because there's
I have to
still I
sit
mean
through it again.
as much as I hate it, and I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe I'm just contradicting myself from the podcast that we did way back when, but I mean like there's like it's I don't think I ever enjoy being in it, but going back and
Hmm.
thinking about it, there's always things like, oh yeah, there was that. But it's like I need distance from it. Like I need to, it's like one of those like family members where it's just like I don't like hanging out with them. But like, you get a little time and distance and be like, oh, I miss Uncle Busta, you know?
Yeah, this is the thing. Yeah, a family member is a good thing because it's still family. All the movies in the Halloween franchise are family. All the movies in the Friday the 13th franchise, for me, are
Yeah.
family. But does that mean that I want to hang out with them all the time, or can I see them just like at Thanksgiving every other year? Because they don't even
Yeah.
show up to all of the holidays. Like every now and
Yeah.
then it'll be like 2 years. I'll be like, oh, I'm gonna see Uncle Busta this year. I haven't seen him in like 2 years. Okay, I'll give him a
Yeah.
shot. He's, maybe I stayed away too long. Maybe I need to give him a chance. And then I watch it and I'm just kind of like, oh, I'm glad I did it because now I know I can stay away another 2 years.
Yeah.
Another 3 years if I
Yeah.
want to.
Yeah, and
But
I mean this the same thing rings true for the Final Destination
that's true.
franchise.
That's true for me.
Anyway, shall we move along?
Yeah.
Let's get to the cherry picker.
It's not like we kill people on purpose.
What are we thinking for cherry on top? I think this is pretty unanimous between us.
Yeah, Mary Elizabeth Winstead or Wendy, whatever. Yeah.
Wens,
Wins. I
Wend.
mean, again, if she and Ryan Merriman too, like he deserves an honorable mention, but for her, she's so watchable. She's a fucking
Hmm.
star. I'd watch her
Yeah,
do anything, and even I mean,
yeah.
I think she's basically actually kind of wasted in her Black Christmas, but I love watching her in it.
I mean, most of them are in that movie.
That's true.
I mean,
I
they're
wish there
all
were a little bit more.
there and they're like they're doing stuff together and just like,
Sure,
making
but
great things happen. But like
could be more. Could be more.
individually, yeah, there's not much going on. But she's very much like a contemporary scream queen,
Yeah.
uh, if you will.
She's the first character who comes to mind when I think about this movie, and it's not just because she's the protagonist. It's because she resonates. She's just that good. She's so
Hmm.
fucking good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So cherry pick. Last time we asked you who deserves to die the most in Orphan. John Coleman was my nomination. Dr. Browning was yours, Edward.
Yeah.
Across Patreon, Instagram, and YouTube, the final vote was 359 for John Coleman versus 140 for Dr. Browning.
Oh my God, that was a lot of people. Thanks, guys.
There's a lot of it's a popular movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. Shall we read some of those comments?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see here.
I can't wait.
So, Aunt DePuzzo, John's incompetence was next level. I wish Kate killed him herself instead of Esther. This movie is such a 2000s gem.
Mm.
Thomas Baker, John Coleman. Very simple and straight to the point.
Okay.
Vicky screams, my vote is emphatically for John. He is so judgmental of Kate's alcoholism and villainizes her for not being perfect when not only had she lost a baby, but her husband had cheated on her. You're meant to be her support system, you fuck. He
Right.
has the audacity to tell Kate she could be over the affair because it happened 10 years ago, even though it had only been a couple of years since he actually told her about it. He doesn't believe anything Kate says about Esther and blames Kate for all the problems. But the second Esther does one thing that makes him uncomfortable, he reconsiders her future in the family. Selfish piece of shit deserved what he got. Lexi Smichinsky. Oh, yeah, the man has problems. Everything he does is just to appease his wife. who is calling out for help. He doesn't really help her. Plus, it's clear he doesn't really forgive her for the accident. He just silently
Yeah,
resents her and pretends everything is okay.
that's
Not a
absolutely
good,
true.
not a
Yeah.
good dude. Is that a killable offense? Maybe not,
Yes.
but this is the cherry picker, so yes.
Yeah.
David Garrido is the orphan and a option since she destroys families.
Well, we made her the cherry on top, so
Yeah,
no.
rules are
I
rules,
Yeah.
David.
Those are the rules.
Yeah. Spinning daffodils. He did put off the advances of someone who he thought was a child, so that makes him cool in my book.
That's all it takes? Okay.
Rowena Potter. I have not seen the movie yet, but I'm voting for the good doctor, mainly because she is an excellent actress, and when she plays mean, she's scary good. Love her.
Nice. Yeah,
Dylan
she's great.
Jameson. Dylan Jameson. While John may be a douchebag who, instead of helping his wife, just thinks about himself. For instance, his wife is a recovering alcoholic, but he still has alcohol in the house. He seemingly resents his wife for the death of Jessica and Max's deafness. My vote doesn't go to him, it goes to Dr. Browning, as she is Kate's therapist. She breaks the patient-doctor confidentiality by coming into her home and speaking to Esther about Kate's problems in front of John. And that is a big no-no, in my opinion.
Thank you.
Silent Saturn. I tend to give the non-believers in movies a break because they don't know what the audience knows, and it's usually a very far-fetched thing to accept. But boy, did John test my patience.
Mm-hmm.
However,
Mm.
Silent Saturn. However, my vote goes to Dr. Browning. As an alleged professional, there's no excuse to be this narrow-minded and judgmental. Having one
Thank
short
you.
session with Esther and then pretending to have it all figured out is
Mm-hmm.
ludicrous. Off with her head.
Yay!
Grant Dempsey, voting therapist for the cherry picker is so 2023, but I'm feeling nostalgic. So here's a vote for Dr. Browning.
Thank you. Well, we got a vocal majority, but a few people piped in for me. Thanks,
Yeah,
guys.
got some piping hot takes there.
Yeah.
So, okay. First dibs here.
Yeah.
I feel like there's only two options for me, and I feel like whichever one I don't choose, you'll choose, but maybe you'll
Okay.
surprise me. Um, I'm gonna I'm gonna go with Frankie just
Okay.
because he's just it's at least there's an attempt with the other character, to have a character there as inconsistent as it is. But with Frankie, it's just he's just like not a real person. And beyond that, he doesn't have his own death scene. And I feel like a character like that should have deserved his own death scene rather than just like a like oh like surprise that was him in front of them in the drive-through the whole time. So I feel like I'm nominating him because I feel like he wasn't killed enough. He didn't get to there was no suffering, there was no like seeing it coming. It was just like he was just having the gay old time, about to like have his hamburger or whatever, and then suddenly his brain was like um propellered out of his head. So he
Right.
he I don't think there was any pain there. I don't think that there was any
Remorse.
I don't think there was any recognition of what happened. It was just like he was just dead. So,
Hmm.
we don't need remorse in these movies.
Pain.
I just need death. I just need like big, elaborate Rube
Okay.
Goldberg set pieces, and he didn't get his. So for that, I'm choosing him.
He deserved consciousness of his fate.
Yes.
But okay. I see more than one. I'll actually talk about one that I will not nominate, but I thought was kind of like a contender as I was moving
Oh.
through the movie, was Lewis, because again, another kind of toxic one note character who has, again, a sliver of dimension because he's the one who actually surprisingly de-escalates McKinley at the funeral for the two girls, for Ashley and Ashlyn. He's the one who's literally trying to like calm him down and walk him away from the people so he won't like go off, huh?
which does not make any sense because he was the one who escalated
Yeah.
the fight at the beginning. So
But I liked
what?
it. I liked
Yeah.
it because I think it's about a time and a place. Because again, it was so abrupt. Him at the roller coaster, even just like, damn, that bitch is just trying to get some attention. I'm like, what the fuck? Shut up! Fuck you! You're that character, aren't you? The first time I saw this movie, and every time I watch him do it again, I'm just kind of like, oh fuck you. And then I'm like, oh, but look, he's actually de-escalating because time and place. Like we were just in an amusement park, and I just wanted to make things about me. But now, we're at a funeral, dog. Come on. And then now I'm in the gym, and my alpha thing is taking over again. But did that mean he deserved to die? I mean, does anybody deserve to die? But I'm gonna go with McKinley actually, just because you mentioned consistency, and that was the thing I was thinking about in terms of like my potentials. Um, he could have been such a more interesting written character, and with an actor like Chris Lemke playing him, like he would have been capable of handling a character that went even just like a smidgen deeper, and it would have saved, I think, the climax, because that's literally his transition, his final transition from like kind of like postulating somewhat empathetic but also academically minded like like death is just an idea, and when you look at it from this angle and you think about it like that, and then all of a sudden woman that I love was taken from me and it's your fault because reasons, and now I'm indestructible. I mean, all of that downgrades the movie. It keeps it from being a 4.5 or a 5-star movie for me. He's, because this is the thing. I'm okay. I'm not okay with what little Frankie does in this movie. He's obviously like a toxic influence, but I look at him the way Ashley and Ashlyn look at him, which is like, ugh, just no. So I don't really need anything from him. Whereas it's the Halloween Kills, Halloween Ends thing, where you introduce something that I'm like, ooh, we got an opener where I'm into this character, and then it just does not pay off for me. It all falls apart in the clutch, or in the, is that term? I don't know sports, but it all just falls apart for me in the lack of payoff. And I wish the character could have paid off even more with the potential that they had with the actor and with like everything else they had built up prior to that. So kill him because kill him more, because also, even though he knows that his death is coming, I really would have loved a grisly for his to make errands, which was very grisly, for his to make it look like a walk in the park. If he could have been like dismembered and then watched himself fall apart or something, oh, that would have been
rather than this like
great.
CGI.
Like hammer a nail into the ground like, and he's dead. Great. No, I want a viscera. There you go. That's my choice. We'll see who wins.
Are you locking that in?
I'm locking in.
Okay.
My McKinley. I think what was his first name? They said his first name at some point. I don't remember what it was. Ian McKinley. After, and they named him that because McKinley, apparently assassination. President McKinley was assassinated by Leon Czolgosz. I know that because I watch musicals. But Assassins in Ragtime, it figures very heavily in those. But no, he they had, I think, alluded in the subway car. I think there's Booth for John Wilkes Booth.
Okay.
And I can't remember the other one. They had other assassins' names as the stops on the subway car when they were moving. Oh wait, I think I wrote it down. Where did I?
Yeah.
Booth and Hidell
Okay.
was killed by Jack Ruby. Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. Oh, and Booth and Oswald. Lee Harvey Oswald. That was another one.
Oswald Cobblepot.
No,
it must be the Penguin. Grant Dempsey has just said that he would nominate one of those jerks who tosses the firecrackers at the horse.
Thank you.
Why is that horse even there? First of all, why is that? What is this bullshit like carnival? It's not a carnival. It's like it's some sort of picnic. Honestly, like that,
a commemorative 4th of July thing. I don't know.
Yeah, like that.
Let's celebrate McKinley.
That as a, like, I guess sort of like the setting for the finale. I mean, until like the subway car just felt like very underwhelming. It was just like you started at a theme park and there was like roller coasters and now you're like ending here. It just feels like this is like this is like the country bumpkin version of that.
We're all in the Hamptons now, but for
Yeah.
no reason. But I mean, there are little things littered throughout that still continue to like lead me on. That's a carrot on the stick. Like I like the fact that when Deckard,
Yeah.
I love that everybody's on board with calling him Deckard too.
Deckard.
But that he's there on the phone, and she's like, and there's something like you're just the photo, you're just like the glare. It just looks like you're blinded by the flash. It looks like I don't know, and it's like a bunch of fireworks went off in my face, and he looks at the big like loaded pile of fireworks that are set to go off, and I'm like, oh, that's
Yeah.
funny. I enjoy that. That's cute.
Yeah.
And watching Julie get dragged by the horse, I don't know why. I'm kind of like, oh, brutal. Because also,
Yeah.
ooh, the way she like the way they shot it, I'm on board with. So there are little things
Yeah.
that I like. Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Okay, well, you can either vote for Frankie or you can vote for Ian McKinley. I
Yeah.
forget what Frankie's last name was, but
Does he have one? Did he
I
have
think yeah, he said it was like something, I don't know. It'll someone might say it in the comments, but if
maybe
not,
it's on IMDb. Let me know.
anyway, you can vote on Patreon. We put the poll up for anyone, even if you're not supporting on Patreon. What's that?
His last name is Cheeks.
Cheeks.
Frankie Cheeks.
And as you say that, so does Amethyst. So
Okay.
yes, you can vote on Patreon. Just come on down there. It's free, but while you stop by, consider supporting. Again, if you are on the Freddy Krueger tier, you'll get to be in these live stream recordings and chatting alongside with us, and you'll also get to nominate the fourth episode that we do every month. You can also vote on Instagram, so go follow us at the Cherry Picker Pod over there. And you can also vote on YouTube on the post section. The poll is posted
We're winding down.
once a week. It is. We're petering out as we call it.
Put, 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 put.
But yeah, if you're listening to this, head over to YouTube, subscribe. If you're watching us on YouTube, the RSS feed link is in the descriptions down below. If listening to this is more to your speed, social media, Edward, where can they find you?
Most frequently on Instagram and Letterboxd these days. Edward is truth. One word, traditional spelling, no spaces. How about you, Zach Cherry?
You can find my my main YouTube channel, Zack Cherry, ZACK space CHERRY. I'm on Instagram at RetroBitchface. I am on Twitter, ZackCherry8. Letterboxd, Zack Cherry. I think that's all the big ones. What's going on next week?
Oh, right. Okay. Is it the one where there's a song? There's many songs that are this word. Like Charlie Chaplin and Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and the Joker does it a lot. Is that the one?
Just you're losing me.
Smile?
Smile.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
the Joker
yeah.
does it a lot.
Okay.
And Charlie Chaplin, smile though your heart is aching.
There you go. Yeah, Smile, the 2022 film. So get ready for that. Otherwise, thank you to everyone who's here with us in the chat, live stream recording. Otherwise, if you were seeing this in the future, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, and we will be right back.